Good evening. We start our weekly program, DeFacto Review, about the three things what happened, three events happened in Mongolia for last 7 days. We try to give you independent review on what is happening, why happening, and what's behind. So today in our program, our topic today is first the local election will be held on October 15th. Role of citizens representative Jargal in the local level and the representative jobs. Second, economy under pandemic COVID-19. How to renew the frozen economy. Third topic, free market and state regulations. There is no such thing as a free market, Prime Minister said. Let's start our first topic. Local election will be held on October 15th. We will talk about the role of citizens Jargal, representative, and what are they doing and how it is understandable by ordinary people. Local election at the level of IMAG and city is held usually after the general election to Great People's Jargal, very short after, and this time it is going to happen in October, mid-October, so a month from now. So far, the Ulaanbaatar city Rep Jargal candidates were announced by political parties. Ruling party, People's Party, puts 45 candidates. The other three major parties, Democratic Party, Revolutionary Party, New Party, made a coalition. Though Democratic Party 37 candidates, People's Party 8, New Party had not done. Shining Party had no candidates, but they are supporting them in coalition. But the other party, Labour Party, Hung Nam, 27 candidates for 45 seats of the citizens representative Jargal of Ulaanbaatar. This Jargal is at the provincial level is actually the structure for realization of self-governance by local people. If the parliament members work for the state level, the citizens' local representative are supposed to work at the level where they are functioning at the local level on the site. Our citizen representative Jargal is consisting of two parts. One is this governor, and then the mayor, and then this representatives. In Ulaanbaatar, there are 45, depending on population. IMAGs have different amount of citizens Jargal representative. But however, there are many issues not very much clear, at least for voters, of local voters. For example, we don't know very much clearly what exactly the role of Jargal representatives. What are they exactly doing? Because some, for example, in some center, some representative Jargals or IMAG representative Jargals are not even having residence in the area where they are representative. They go from Sum to IMAG, from IMAG sometimes to city, Ulaanbaatar. And interestingly, they don't have any salary. It's like volunteer work. And also those who could not have any quota or permission from their political parties for general election for Great Jargal, they usually go to the local Jargal. Because local Jargal kind of good step towards the higher level at the end. So it's more political party oriented rather than citizens oriented, as we find today. For example, People's Party have just, the head of People's Party, Mr. Sumbiya Bazar, had suddenly, and without the consent of the current members of representatives, according to one of them, Che Qantolak, said that they just kept secret who will be running for city, and they just read the names. So some are really discontent with that. These people, as I said, no salary, but they got incentives money. That money is supposed to go for their normal functioning as a representative, and some of them have hired one or two assistants whom they pay from this incentives, some 40 million tugriks per year, which is not enough to cover 2 staff members, for example. So we regard, they looks like more representative of their political parties rather than citizens. That's why many issues are not solved on time in this Ulaanbaatar city, for example. Because they don't receive salary, they have no responsibility. You cannot hold them responsible for anything. But the main function of this representative Hural is to have a control over the executive power of the city. Mayor and his team should be accountable to this representative Hural. They're not so much because they are nominated. The nomination comes from those who are elected as a representative Hural, and one of them to be the mayor of the city, nominated by the Hural, and then it's approved by the prime minister. The same with the governor of IMAX. So the feeling is like they are, our IMAX governor, Ulaanbaatar governor are more accountable to the prime minister or to their political parties rather than to citizens. From now, they are preparing new law, and it looks like 30% of the representatives will have also executive jobs in the city or in IMAC. That means basically a double deal that we were criticizing with the parliament member. So there will be again very blurry the difference between executive power and the legislative power. The most important thing is we have missed so many problems in Mongolia: corruption, land speculation, air pollution, waste management. All these issues are big concern of citizens. Citizens, ideally, they should just tell their problem to their representatives, and the representatives should follow up those problems until it's a solution, which is not the case in Ulaanbaatar city. So that's why many things to be changed. What kind of things to be changed? Those representatives are to represent not their political parties, but citizens in the Hural first. And at the level of SOM and district, the candidates not to be from political parties. They should be from the citizens. And the new law is coming. It looks like, according to the new law, which is expected to be approved soon, Ulaanbaatar city Hural will be represented by representatives at the district level, depending on the population. So thus maybe we will have more democratic participation in decision-making in Ulaanbaatar city, but it will be more decentralized. And I think the decision will be taken very long, because all these districts, 8 districts, represented to be agreed among themselves. So, as I said, Ulaanbaatar, for example, is run by the political parties. It should be run by the people. It is, the power should be for the people and by the people. In that case, for example, Ulaanbaatar citizens go and meet our own representative, demand own representative to solve this or that problems related to their locations, where their residence is. Then probably state services will be more faster, because it will be run by a particular person who are representing the people who have those problems. Our second issue today is economy under the pandemic, COVID-19, how to renew the frozen economy. GDP Mongolia for the first half of this year, 2020, decreased for 10%. We were expecting, when we had a plan, 4 years increase this year, but it's so far, unfortunately, 10% down, understandable. exports went down. We had not always have a chance in the first half to export as usual before our coal. Now it's regaining, but until we are not sure that we can have 40 million tons export as planned. They finally amended our budget after the Hurusuk government got back the power. And now the deficit of our budget is equal to 9.9% of the GDP, almost 10%. It's very high, in particular in the country where the foreign debt is high. Though by this time the government made several bold steps to keep to depend the people's income, and also to keep jobs, and to support companies to keep their jobs. And many companies were exempted now the income taxes. The staffs will give in now money monthly basis, 200,000 tuuriks from unemployment insurance fund, and companies are exempt from income taxes. But so far these measures from the government are not enough and not much helping the private sector. That was discussed at the Mongolian trade chamber last week, and businesses, mostly large and small businesses, were complaining that the government measures are not much supportive to make macroeconomic situation in the country better. For example, the efficiency of the result of the budget expending is not very high. Instead, during the election, many parliament members spent a lot of money invest in so-called investment, and it created many buildings, culture centers, which otherwise not the first priority now. And they have been building high sum projects, and many complain that now those projects to be built, it's like a culture palace, theater, stadium in the local zones. It's already clear who will do it, so there is no open tender, and there is a complaint by private sector that this state enterprises, now state investments, government investment in the real estate and construction are not very transparent. That's one complaint. The other thing, the complaint was the debt management is very poor in Mongolia. Why? Because the main plan, they will issue domestic bond. That means they will attract more money, otherwise goes to economy, to the budget where they spend the money for maybe not necessarily for the things that makes business more better. And also there is a talk that the foreign debt, we need to pay a lot of money from next year, initially $8 million to be there the next year. And the idea is to pay that bond by new bond. But we should understand that in 2012, our bond rate was about 4 and 5%. Today, it's around 10%. So Mongolian sovereign fund can be sold only over 10%, which it makes the countries more in debt. So that's what the people, businesses in particular, concerned. There is a prime minister said that the private companies also have a lot of foreign debt. Now we'll talk about that in our next paragraph. But here, what is to be done in terms of supporting our economy under this pressure of COVID-19? We need to have a very clear priority, maybe to stop some social objects now and to take it to more infrastructure that is more helping the economy or private sector doing their businesses. Roads, for example, instead of laying roads in a countryside where only a few people drive, then this road can be done in Ulaanbaatar where we have a huge traffic jam, one. Secondly, there is a plan to implement e-governance in Mongolia. That will save economy of a lot. for example, registrations, references of state services, all automatic, all online. Yes, there will be many people may have lost jobs, but those people will be retrained, reskilled for other jobs. The third, construction industry, construction branch need more money. All frozen now. They have been using barter trade. I think they're outcome of all possible barter trade possibility. And some is suggesting of one of the businesses at this chamber suggested that maybe we have a future fund where 1.2 billion, not 1.2 trillion tourists are staying idle. And with this rate, and why we should keep this fund idle, and how about using that to support more mortgage, etc. The third things they should do is we need to increase the trust in capital market. The listed companies to report on time, which they don't do, and the state FRC cannot force them on time to put the report, and that gets very hard to believe in trust in a capital market. The other thing to increase capital market is, and also to government, instead of issuing bond, they should privatize state-owned enterprises through stock exchange, so that everybody has equal access to stock exchange. Maybe we can limit a purchase of above a certain percent, 5 or so shares by one individual. At least those private companies will have more control of people on the way they're expanding. So many state-owned enterprises, not much efficient. They need also to privatize state bank, and also to encourage foreign direct investment. All this together will make more confidence in our capital market. But for that, according to a CEO of one bank, Mongolia need to work on increasing our credit rating, which is not very much high. And to that, we need to decrease state budget deficit, more foreign direct investment, better business conditions. Those things to be made in Mongolia. And finally, they also make more. Now they should really do better economic. We call it diversification of economy. IT businesses should be developed, and tourism. Tourism this year has very specific approach by potential tourists, because now the marketing of Mongolia, having no COVID inside, made many thousands, many hundred thousands of requests to come to Mongolia. But there is no flight now. When they are here, are we ready for accepting those guests? Because now many accommodations are busy with over 3,000 Mongolians who were stranded before, who were brought by charter flights to Mongolia. So these are the thoughts concerning what is the better outcome from the pressure in the economy at this time. Our third topic is about the role about the free market in state regulations. We bring it to the issue because Prime Minister, when he visited, Foreign Minister announced a strange statement. He said, he asked the Foreign Minister, who is supposed to also be responsible for foreign economic relations, he said, do you know how much our private companies got to get in for the loan? Who knows? Nobody knows, he said. Mongolia has some $30 billion foreign debt up to now. 7 of them belongs to the government, 2 central bank, 2.2 to commercial banks. The remaining 18, or almost $19 billion belongs to private companies. And Prime Minister was very much concerned that now the state is in a big debt. But however, if the government has not given guarantee to those private companies, then it is not a problem of the government. There were cases where government made guarantee for $500 million of the TDB bond 5 years ago. Recently they have it in May, but unfortunately they were so smart to make risk management. They have hedged, and Mongol Bank had to give them $500,000 by the rate 5 years ago in the functioning. So at that time it was 1,600 Tugrik was $1, and now it was 200, almost 3,000. So TDB made a quite smart risk management at the cost of taxpayers. So this kind of government guarantees given to other bonds, that's the Prime Minister's concern. He should talk about that more in details and with the exact company's name and who gave this state guarantee. And hopefully there is not any more government guarantee to a bond of a private company. He said that there is no so thing like free market. There is the only thing that state regulate free market. That's what his remark, which created a lot of questions and debates among the people on particular social media. However, we should remember that in 1990, Mongolia made decisions to move our economy, centrally planned economy, to the more free market principles, and political system to democratic with many party system. Why? Then it raised an issue and that we need to discuss in our society actually. What is the state regulation? What does it mean? What is the state role in the economy? So let me remind that the state has only two functions, major functions. One is protection. That's protecting the things that one person cannot do it individually. That's safety, security of individuals, and protecting their rights and properties. That's all the state can do. The second function is create, produce. But they produce things that private companies cannot do. Some infrastructure, big infrastructure, a lot of investment is required. And then those in infrastructure should be accessible to everybody. That's what to measure important. That's the reason we have a state and all the humankind made a state. And that's why the people agree to pay taxes. And the state has a power and force to get the taxes. In terms of economic regulation, there is need to have, in order to protect the first function, to protect the need to regulate some part of the economy. What exactly is those things? It is all business activities should not bring harm to people's health, nature, and nobody must have, there should not be monopoly on any businesses. So that's the main job of the government. For those purposes, government should make standard regulations and enforce everybody to follow those standards. Yet the government is not doing that. We don't have Food and Drug Administration. People go and buy somewhere drugs or food and bring with suitcase and sell it. So this kind of regulations, government must do it. Basically, government should support free competition. It can be also planning to support free competition, for competition, not against competition, so that it must stop monopoly. Monopoly must be there. We should not have a monopoly, because if we go to some provider, if they refuse to serve us, We must have a right to go to another one. In monopoly, it is not there. And plus, of course, government to make sure that companies have social responsibility. Whatever they do, they should make the society better. This kind of state regulations we want, and I hope Prime Minister had the same point. There is a special provision in our constitution which says population social development is the purpose of the private sector development. Well, basically, it is not exact translation, but it's a Constitution provision 5.4. So that's why today government regulations are not following exactly what they're supposed to do. They regulate prices for many goods. Actually, regulation of prices makes even worse. Price can be high, then the demand will be less. In that way, the market can work better, having good price than the government regulations. Government regulation gives, for example, sometimes a monopoly to provider of unique goods, like, for example, food, gas. There are only a few importer, and they are freed from taxes, and it doesn't work. It has been never working until now. They are happy when the price goes down, they keep the same price. Price goes up, at times then keep price the same level. But mostly during these whole years when the oil product was very cheap, we had the same price, not cheaper. So we should have one in mind. Jobs are created by private sector, not by the government. If it is by the government, at the end, it will be more burden on private sector, from whom the taxes are increased. And private state-owned companies, for example, always not efficient in Mongolia. So that's why regulations to be in such a way to make private sector working, functioning better, competing fairly, and bringing better value, good price to private sector. So that's, I hope, and that was I hope it was understanding of our Prime Minister, and that is the context that he had of, he talked about the need of state regulation. So today we have introduced you our 3 topics of 7 days week. Of last week, 3 events happened in Mongolia. That's local election is coming to be held in October 15th. And also economy under the pandemic, what is the dynamics now, and what we can do better. The third is free market and the state regulations. On this issue in Mongolia, we need more discussions among ordinary people, population, so that we exactly clearly understand what kind of regulations we want and what kind of regulation we don't want. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Our weekly program goes at this time MNB World. It is always you can watch on Facebook Live, and otherwise next day you can watch on our website jargaldefacto.com. Thank you very much for your time. See you in next week. One is the